So I guess these days I'm getting just a little big for my 55, so I guess it was time to upgrade and get something a little more my size. Let's go take a look at what we got. So, don't look over there. So, before we start, a lot of people are going to look at this thing and go, wow, that looks really nice to claim this is the cheapest running 55 Chevy in the USA. Well, on camera, it probably is going to look a lot better than it actually is. But that being said, I scoured Facebook Marketplace for over a year, maybe a year and a half, looking for a 55 Chevy. And this was the only car at this price point that I found that ran and drove. And I mean, when we went to pick it up, I was able to drive it down the street. None of the other ones that I looked at could do that. They were basically complete basket cases. So let's kind of take a look at this one and see what it's like for that price. So to start off with, obviously this thing's been repainted. The paint is really rough. It's very oxidized. It's chipped in a lot of places, especially on the trunk here. There's Bondo underneath it. The roof is cracked pretty good up there. So obviously the exterior is not perfect. This rocker panel here has a bunch of rust in it, and there's a lot more rust in this car than what you'll be able to see from the outside here. But that being said, the body is fairly straight and it's fairly solid, and for the price of this car, you just do not see cars that run and drive and have any kind of decent body. I'll throw up some examples here on screen. So, does it run and drive perfectly? No, it definitely does not. But running and driving is a step in the right direction. Let's pop open the hood here. So, it's got some kind of small block Chevy. I don't know whether it's a 283, 327, 350. It's pretty hard to tell on these. But it does run. It came with a new battery, so that's a major plus. The carburetor could use some tuning, and I'm sure it just needs a lot of tuning up. We'll start it up here and take it for a drive in a little bit, but first let's take a little more look at the rest of the car. The interior is basically stock. It has the stock original seat, which is apparently really rare. And here is where this car needs the work and why it was cheap. The floors are pretty much completely rusted, and especially when you go over to the passenger side, you can see daylight through most of the floor. Now I know it's pretty dark in here, but even in the back seat, let's see if we can fold this forward. The floors are basically completely shot and all needs to be redone. But the best thing about this is that it runs and drives, and I can drive it while I'm working on it, which for me is a major plus. Instead of something like this Pontiac here that's just sitting here dead and cannot be driven while it's being worked on. The frame is pretty much in pretty good shape. It's a little crusty underneath here. It's hard to see, it's pretty dark, but it's pretty much in good shape. It's got a Chevelle rear end, which I believe has to be narrowed a little bit. And inside the trunk, you gotta have a screwdriver to open it. But the shock towers are not all blown out, and it's really not all that rusty inside the trunk. The main thing is just that rocker that is completely shot and needs to be replaced down here. And then all the floors inside basically have to go. But that is not gonna be the most fun modifications we have to make to this car. Let me show you the fun part. So this here is what the car really needs, considering that it is a 350 turbo 350 automatic car. That is just not going to cut it one of these. So once we slap a 4-speed in, it'll be a much more fun car to drive. Now personally, I think the 55 Chevy is one of the most beautiful American cars ever made. There's something about that Ferrari derived egg crate grille in the front there that it just really has a good look to it. But unfortunately, this was all I could afford, and this was actually more than I could afford. And so, but it's going to be a good project. We're going to fix it up and make it into a nice, pretty car. Originally, this thing was Neptune green, so maybe it'll go back to that. Painting is definitely not top tier on my list. This here, putting a 4-speed in it, is definitely my #1. Make it a really fun driver, but that's enough jabber jawing. Let's fire this thing up and take it for a ride. Okay, well, unfortunately, we just got word that because it's not licensed and insured, we can't go on the public highways, but we can still take it for a drive, so let's fire it up. This thing really does run pretty good. Little noisy, the exhaust through the floor, but that's okay. So let's take this thing for a drive and hopefully she makes it. One goofy thing that I really don't like is that this car has this weird B&M ratchet shifter. You gotta like pull up on this lever to get into gear, and I don't know, I don't love it, but other than that, it's not that big of a deal. But this car will definitely be a lot more fun once we get the 4-speed in it. I think first thing is gonna be we wanna fix the floors. Second, well, and the rocker panel. God, I hate that shifter. First thing we're gonna do is fix the floors, then we're gonna fix the rocker panel, and then hopefully next on the list is going to be to put a 4-speed in it, maybe hop up the motor just a little bit, but it runs smooth. I don't plan on building some super hot rod with this. I just want to make a good cruiser that really I can drive every single day to school or to work or to whatever else. None of the gauges work on this thing, but for a cheap car, I mean, you can't expect all that stuff to work. It's really a miracle that this thing runs and drives for the price. I mean, especially the 2-doors, these cars are just getting absolutely ridiculous in price. It's definitely a little too orange for me as of right now, but that's okay. We'll get that changed here sometime. It actually rides not bad. I mean, we live on a really bumpy road, so it might sound like it's bumping around a lot, but it doesn't ride half bad considering how old it is and that it probably needs all new shocks. Motor could use some tuning, but it's got a little pep in its step. It's not bad. Brakes pull to the right just a little bit, but it's not bad. So we just live on a little short road here, so we're only going a 1/4 mile, but the best part about it is how easily it turns. I mean, just effortlessly. Usually that U-turn there is a 2-point turn, but for some reason this car just steers really well. And it kind of gets up and goes just a little bit. You know, basically a stock 350 Chevy or 327 or whatever the heck it is. Brakes, when you get on them, it pulls way to the right, but not a big deal. And here we go back to the bump switch. This thing is handling surprisingly well. Hopefully as we drive through the puddles here, we're not gonna have too much water coming up through the floor. I think this thing might be definitely a little more of a summer car as of right now, but that's gonna be first on the list to get fixed. Fix all the floors and fix the rocker panels. Well, the car made it back. I mean, really no issues whatsoever. It actually kind of drives surprisingly well. So hopefully we're going to get the floors patched up here soon, tune up the motor a little bit, definitely throw the 4-speed in it and make it a fun car to drive. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video on the 55. And if you did, don't forget to like and subscribe and leave a comment, and we'll catch you on the next one.